Fish using a jig head. Many professional fishers say that the jig head is an important part of the bait. The jig head's weight, shape, and the hook that go with it affect the bait's performance. At the lower end of the jig head, the base angler will sharpen the hook. If the angler is in shallow water or over deep water, penetration is improved if the jig hook is well sharpened. The weed guard that is formed into the lead head examines it carefully. This may affect how fast or slow the bait falls under water. This may also affect bait bites and penetration. Some guards may cause the line to tangle or get stuck, because of the massive glue used to assemble the jig. If your weed guard is too long, it may be difficult for the hook to dig in. You may cut a portion of the weed guard, allowing the hook to improve its potential as an effective hook set. Choosing the weight of your jig head minimizes the chance of you shaving of a portion of the lead head. It is also advisable to have a different variety of jig heads, since some fish prefer baits that fall slowly. A jig head may vary from its shape, weight, color, and features. Here are some samples of jig heads. Round head. This is the most common of all the jig heads. Mostly the feature of this jig head has a long shaft jig hook and two keeper rings on the round head to prevent the bait from sliding but will not damage or tear of the baits. Some round head have short shank hook, most likely similar to an octopus hook with 90-degree jig head. Fish head shape. This jig head usually needs to have swim baits. Attaching swim baits and gluing it to the jig head makes the bait last longer. But mostly the reason on attaching swim baits is to catch more and bigger fish. Gluing it to the jig head avoids the swim bait to tear up when pulled by big fish. But be careful not to put excessive glue on the bait. There are many kinds of jig heads out on the market. Some offers jig heads that comes with a weed guard. Jig head shapes also vary from whatever people may think of. These head mostly weigh from 1/60 ounces to more than 1 ounce. It has a wide variety of colors, shapes and sizes, as well as the hooks. Hooks vary from materials that made the hook to the types, color, and angles of the hook. These are simple steps on how to fish using a jig head. Find your spot. For newbie fishers, an accessible lake would be a good spot to fish. Know what the majority types of fish in the area are. This will help you in choosing the right jig head to use. Choose the jig head you want to use. The weight of the jig head is important as to how heavy it is, that it may sink faster in the water. Choosing the right hook to use for your particular jig head and prey is important. what material your hook is made of and the sharpness of it. You may also consider a weed guard since it also helps on how fast or slow your bait will sink under the water. Some fish prefers those that sink in slowly. Attach the weed guard and the hook to your jig head. Attach the assembled jig to your fishing line, making sure that it is in a secure and proper assembly. Grip the rod handle with which hand you usually use. For those that are right-handed, the turn of their rods must be sideways so that the reel's handle points upwards. For left-handed people, the rod's handle should be pointing downwards. Aim at your target. The rod should be on your eye level, pointing to the area where you are about to cast. Bend your casting arm at your elbow and raise your arm until you have eye level with your hand. Then bend your wrist forward followed by your arm, then release the thumb button to let your lure fly towards the water. Let your bait sink for a few seconds, then slowly reel it back in. Then repeat the last 3 steps until you catch a fish. You may also try a different method. You can let your line rest in the water and wait until you see your reel move. When your reel is being pulled under the water, it most likely means that a fish has taken your bait. Give it a quick tug to set the hook on your fish, then reel it in as quickly as you can. And now you have successfully caught a fish with your jig head.